Hello and welcome to the last for 2024 Father and Son Formula One podcast. I'm the father, Graham Miller, and this is my son, Toby.
Hello.
And, well, we'll see how the time goes, but I think we're going to talk a bit about what happened in Abu Dhabi, which was the last race of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll give a quick recap of the year and what we've got to look forward to in 2025.
Yes.
Abu Dhabi. I don't think much happened in free practice, really, did it?
No, I think I watched them because it was actually at a convenient time.
Yeah.
Kept them on in the background. Let me just have a look.
As far as I remember, it was fairly much the usual guys were in the usual places in the timings. It wasn't like, oh my god, everybody suddenly seemed, massively high up. Or
I think Hulkenberg was third in
yeah,
FP2.
actually, Hulkenberg and the Alpines had a really good weekend, didn't they?
Well, Gasly did. Now, FP1, there was a whole load of rookie drivers.
Yeah, everybody was getting their rookie drivers in. We had Luke Browning, Jack Doohan, Arthur Leclerc, first time brother, and two brothers have raced for the same team, obviously.
They participated in a session for the same team.
Yeah, because we obviously had Michael and Ralph Schumacher for years, but always in different teams.
Mm-hmm.
Ayumu Iwasa for RB, Isaac Hadjar. I'm sure we've seen him before in Perez's Red Bull.
Yeah, he was a championship contender in F2.
Ryu Hirakawa, who's a 30-year-old rookie, if I'm right.
I've never heard of him, actually. I think he must be IndyCar? I know he's World Endurance.
Oh, okay. And Felipe Drugovich, who has possibly the worst job in Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Aston Martin reserve driver.
Yeah.
Now, the odds on getting rid of either Fernando Alonso or Lance Stroll are vanishingly small.
Yeah, but he's actually the only rookie in the top 10 to start with in FP1, and he beat Alonso.
Yeah.
And so everybody has been saying he needs a seat, really. He's kind of like Colapinto or Piastri was a year ago. It's like, how is he not actually full time? He's so good.
But like I say, he's the reserve driver in a team where they are pretty unlikely to swap out either of their main drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I would be looking elsewhere. I'd be talking to Andretti or Audi or who else is kind of looking a bit...
RB, talk to Christian Horner. That's a very flexible situation.
Yeah, but like the best case scenario for RB is you have to be up against Verstappen.
Yeah, but you can come in against Tsunoda. That's actually the last seat that still hasn't been filled for...
Yeah, actually, the FIA published the official entry list for 2025.
Oh, I read it too.
Yeah, they had TBC next to, what's his face? The second RB driver.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I noticed looking at the free practice lists that I've never seen before in a season.
Yes.
Jack Doohan came in for Alpine.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a technical thing because Haas wanted Ocon to do the final test.
Yeah.
The post-Abu Dhabi test. We've spoken about this before. Technically, all the drivers have employment contracts up to the end of December.
Yeah.
So it's a bit awkward to have, like, Ocon being paid by Alpine but racing a Haas. So by some arrangement, they let Ocon go a race early. Gave Jack Doohan a whole race weekend instead of an FP1 to get used to it.
Yeah, which is probably quite good for Doohan, to be fair.
Oh, it's probably good for everybody all round. But what occurred to me was, this season we've had 3 people swapped out mid-season, which is quite high, to be honest.
Yes.
And none of them, we actually saw their final race weekend as that. I mean, Ricciardo, there was that really painful Singapore, where he was pretty much in tears and everybody was interviewing him and going, well, how do you rate your career in F1? Although nobody had actually said, this is... And the same thing happened to Logan Sargent. He just woke up one morning between races and it was like, oh no, he's out. And the same thing for Ocon. He didn't get his big final fanfare
Yeah.
this is my last race for Alpine. I think Ocon actually had a special tribute helmet that he never got to use.
Yeah, that is quite awesomely harsh of Alpine not to give him the kind of
Send off.
Yeah, not to give him anything really.
But it's really odd that there's been, I'm going to actually say it, there's been 3 or 4 drivers that's happened to this season.
Yeah.
Because
at least we did get, what's his face? We got proper send off for Hamilton from Mercedes. They actually did him justice.
Oh yeah, I mean that was, but
yeah,
everybody's been saying this is the last race weekend for Perez.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
again,
even now, Horner and Marco are saying, well, we'll talk to him and he'll make his decision. And Perez has been saying, I'm not leaving.
Yeah, I mean, they're stupid. They're saying, well, we're waiting for you to leave. And he's like, yeah, I signed a contract at the end of 2025.
Yeah.
He's probably saying, bring it on with your lawyers, to be honest.
It just kind of seems, again, it's kind of backwards in a way from what we were expecting to happen with, what happened with Albon and Gasly. They got booted midway through the season.
Yeah.
And they were actually pretty much on the same level that Perez has been on, if not slightly better. I mean, they were both basically rookies. And yet Perez has been around for 10 years. And for some reason, maybe it's Slim's kind of chokehold on them, but they can't seem to let him go.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think, unfortunately, in terms of points scored, anybody's been quite as bad as Perez. That's the problem.
No.
I think for the Constructors' Championship, Max scored nearly 75%, or nearly 3/4 of all their Constructors' points.
Yes.
Which is, it's kind of terrifying that they got third in the Constructors.
Basically, with just him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have come third by himself.
No.
Mercedes would have still overtaken them. So technically, Perez got them third.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I mean, he wasn't the worst, because technically speaking, Zhou scored 100% of stakes points.
Yeah, but the numbers are so much smaller down there, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just a chance thing. I mean, Bottas got really unlucky in Qatar, actually, running over the mirror and everything.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mess, that race. So, yeah, I mean, really disappointingly, well, for what happened in qualifying, Mercedes looked really strong. Pretty much all throughout the free practices, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, third in FP1, fourth, and then where's Russell? 13th. I mean, free practice is not indicative, really. It looked like it was McLaren's on top, really.
And that's pretty much how it stayed, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what happened in qualifying? It was Norris from Piastri.
And we actually lost Hamilton in P18 in Q1.
Yeah.
You know what cracked me up about that?
What?
Toto said, "Oh, we made a stupid mistake, not getting Lewis out in time for his Q2 run, his final one of Q1 rather."
Yeah.
And I just thought, that wasn't a stupid mistake. It's standard operating procedure for Mercedes. Since I've been watching, Mercedes never get their cars out on time.
Yeah.
They never put in a banker lap. They probably, if you said, "Where's your banker lap?" they would say, "I don't know, what do you mean? I've not heard that phrase before."
Yeah.
The standard way Mercedes operate is to go, "Oh God, we've got 5 minutes left, we better get our cars on track."
Yeah. They are always kind of on the edge, and sometimes it works because they come out last when the track is kind of perfect.
Yeah.
But quite a lot of the time they just leave it too late. And then, didn't Hamilton get a bollard stuck under his...
Yeah, Magnussen went wide just before sector 3, flicked a bollard, and the timing was absolutely perfect. It went horizontal just as Hamilton's car came along and it jammed under the floor.
Yeah.
Which
on the one hand means that wasn't actually Hamilton's pace. So when we kind of saw it, it was like, okay, that's why that happened.
Yeah.
But it's also just give him a break, please.
And I mean, looking at the final lineup, he probably, I think they said he was faster than George most of the weekend, so he probably would have come in 5th or 6th.
Yeah, let's have a look. It's so tight though. I mean, it was 2/10 of a second covered Piastri down to Gasly. So he could have been anywhere from kind of 3rd to 6th.
Yeah, it's...
Probably would have been, between Gasly and Verstappen, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren did exactly what they needed to. 1-2.
Yeah.
Again,
Leclerc had a penalty.
Battery pack penalty, didn't he?
And he only qualified 14th in the qualifying.
Yeah.
So, what happened? Oh, Albon and Colapinto got gearbox penalties.
Yeah.
Hulkenberg got three positions for failing to follow race director's instructions. I think he did a practice start he wasn't supposed to.
Yep.
And then Leclerc got 10 positions. So Doohan did the magic trick where he qualified P20 and started 17th.
Yeah, I think Lewis got up to 16th.
But Leclerc started 19th.
Yeah, I think they must have done it so that Leclerc was technically 24th on the grid. And then they put the two Williams... I think Colapinto would have gone back to 24th as well, because he was 19th with a 5-place drop.
Yes.
Or did he have a 10-place drop?
I think he had a 5-place drop from 19th.
And then Albon would have been 26th or something. It's just...
Well, Colapinto, then Leclerc, then Albon. I have no idea how they figured it out, to be honest.
Yeah, it was one of those proper roll of dice.
At that point, they could say, well, Leclerc set a faster time than Colapinto, therefore he's in front.
Yeah.
They must have some procedure for figuring it all out.
Yeah.
Bottas got through to Q3, actually, didn't he?
Yeah. Can I just say, as a quick aside,
Yeah.
follow Valtteri Bottas on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. What does he do? I know what he does. I know what he gets up to, but what's he done now?
There's one little video where he got stopped for speeding. He's advertising some whiskey where him and I think his girlfriend or his wife were doing this really wooden country and western song where he's wearing like jeans with his thumbs hooked into the belt loops and a big plaid shirt and a hat, and he's just hamming it up, but he's just like so wooden. It's just I mean, forget the motor racing, he's got a career as an influencer right there.
Yeah, he is weirdly hilarious, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, so they kind of rolled the dice for the starting grid.
Mm.
And then we had the race.
Yeah, so to start with, Charles Leclerc made up 11 places on the first lap.
Yeah, I saw the onboard. He's just like, they're all bunching up on the left there. I'll go right then.
I mean, yeah, to start with, Verstappen and Piastri spun each other round.
No.
Well, okay, Verstappen spun Piastri round.
Yeah, Verstappen, for some reason that nobody understood,
steamed up the inside, yeah.
Yeah.
And just, biffed Piastri. Verstappen actually came up to him after the race and apologised, which is how he knows it was him, his fault.
What's really weird is, we were saying, I think in Las Vegas when he was going for the race win,
mm-hmm.
that Verstappen he was going for the World Championship. The Verstappen's kind of mellowed, because in Las Vegas he actually didn't fight against Hamilton or anybody as long as he kept Norris behind him.
Or even as long as he prevented Norris from outscoring him by a certain amount or whatever it was.
I think he just had to finish ahead of Norris, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a time when I think Hamilton and Leclerc just barreled past him, and there was none of the stupidness from him. He was like, I've got to finish this race in front of Norris.
Yeah.
And that all seems to have gone out the window, because he wasn't really in a fight with Piastri, was he?
Well, he wanted to gain positions because he's a racing driver, but there was no reason
to actually fight him.
Yeah, it's not like if that was Norris and it was 3-4 races ago and the championship was on the line, you could at least do the kind of like, squinting and saying, well, maybe it helped him out a bit in the championship.
But there was nothing.
But there's no reason to at this point.
No. Max Verstappen got 2 penalty points for that move.
Yeah, he's on 8 now, isn't he?
Yes, but how many races has he got to complete scoring 3 penalty points or less before they start coming off his licence?
Is it like a whole season or something?
No, it's till the end of June. He's got to do 11 races in 2025.
Oi, oi, oi.
With 3 penalty points or less.
Well, some people have actually said at some point his coming child will be born.
They're not some people. Max himself. They pointed it out to Max.
Yeah.
And he just laughed and said, "Yeah, well, if I time it right, it'll be my paternity leave, won't it?"
Well, I mean, I can't do the maths, but it's a whole year, isn't it?
Yeah.
The baby's going to come at some point.
I don't know how far along Kelly is, or
probably June-ish, May or June. Do Monaco because that's fun. Maybe try and kill someone in Monaco because it's quite easy, and then you can take Spain and Canada off.
Yeah, he won't get two race back.
Actually, he'll be in Monaco then, won't he?
Yeah.
So take Spain off, and then there's another week gap between Canada. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, I think there has been a big PR campaign to make Max seem more human.
Yeah.
I think it's really weird how ever since all this has kind of blown up that you see his stepdaughter a lot more, and there's like video of her coming up and hugging him. And
yeah, I think that's maybe a bit cynical to say that that's specifically a PR campaign, especially considering how bad Red Bull's PR people seem to be, because they can't kind of control Horner or Marco from just saying ridiculous random things.
No, but I think maybe Max will have his own kind of agenda, won't he?
Yeah.
And I think he wants to be seen as more than just an out-and-out racer who'll put somebody in a wall.
Yeah.
If it suits him.
Yeah.
And I think there is that aspect of it. Which is kind of weird that that's all happened and then he got into a huge row with George Russell.
Yes, which does seem to have stopped.
Well, because they're not racing anymore.
Also, there was a GDPA, the Grand Prix Drivers Association did another post.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was every driver on the grid. And they very much put Russell and Verstappen right at the front next to each other.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people pointed out, well, Russell's the chair of the GPDA.
Yep.
And Verstappen's the driver's champion.
Yep.
So, in any other...
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's kind of like logical.
Yeah, they put Hamilton right behind them.
And then you had Nick Heidfeld and the legal secretary next to them, so...
Is it Nick Heidfeld?
There's some... Oh, Alexander Wirtz.
Yeah, Alex Wirtz and the lawyer, who's the other chair.
Yeah.
At the front.
I mean, I actually did quite a deep dive on the whole Russell Verstappen row.
Mm.
And the weird thing is, Russell said a lot of really specific stuff. He quoted what Verstappen said. He said, there were drivers like Carlos and Lando around him when it was said. And Checo, I think, Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
And he said, he went into the steward's room and he was swearing at them for 5 minutes and I didn't get a word in.
Mm.
And nothing that Verstappen said kind of contradicted that. Verstappen said things like, oh, he's a loser and he's lying. But he didn't actually say what his version of the truth was.
Well, he came in and said that Russell was the one who was trying to lobby for the penalty and that he lost all respect for him.
Yeah, he kind of kicked it off.
It's kind of, yeah. And then it kind of devolved into basically Russell saying, oh, we're not going to be bullied by him anymore. And then yeah. I
mean, I think actually the roots of it go back quite a long way, because I think when they had the USGP and the Mexico instance with Max just basically driving Lando off the track at any opportunity.
Yeah.
Russell said, well, we've had a GPDA meeting about it and 19 of us are in agreement that you can't drive like this.
Yeah. And clearly we all know who the one driver is, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be Lance Stroll, isn't it?
I don't think Max would agree with it, would he? Yeah, it's going to be...
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, Russell has also been involved in certain things like that as well, though. Because there was that crash he had with Bottas a few years ago. And I think at that point, everybody was kind of rooting for George because he was the underdog. But then I think the way George handled it afterwards, everyone was like, oh, it's actually he can be a bit kind of... I think it soured some people on him a bit.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we said before that, he's got, he does have really bad weekends where he just crashes into people and hasn't really got car control.
And he does blame other people on crashes at some points as well.
Yeah.
He's not kind of extremely clean, is the thing, which kind of makes it a bit almost funny that he's the one who's like, oh, well, you can't just do that to Verstappen.
Yeah.
If it was, if it was someone like Hamilton or something, it might have a bit more kind of...
Yeah, George has actually said that Hamilton is the driver he looks up to because he's an unbelievably hard racer, but he's really fair.
Yeah. And, 7-time world champion comes out of that.
Yeah, but it's not like... I've always said this, like Schumacher.
Yeah.
He was a 7-time champion, but my God, was he a dirty racer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clip of the 2010 Hungarian Grand Prix. Yeah. Schumacher's in a Mercedes. Yeah. He's fighting Barrichello in a Williams.
Yeah.
And they basically, Schumacher kind of squeezes Barrichello up against like a concrete wall and almost drives him into it. And Barrichello's on the radio going, that was horrible, he tried to kill me. It's like, that's Barrichello. That should be like your best friend.
Yeah. And also Barrichello has had some horrific accidents as well, so...
I mean, he was part of the kind of blackest day in F1 history because he had that massive crash in Imola, 94.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one I was thinking of.
It's kind of a bit like... Yeah. I can't see Hamilton doing that to Bottas.
No.
Nowadays, I think they would be... Well, Hamilton's just fair to everyone because that's how you should be.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, we got massively off topic again.
So yeah, Verstappen spun Piastri round and they were both on a recovery drive from there onwards.
Yeah, Verstappen also rear-ended Colapinto. Piastri rear-ended Colapinto and got a penalty.
Yeah, that's what's really ironic, that Verstappen got a 10-second penalty for that.
Yeah.
And then almost immediately, Piastri drove into the back of Colapinto and got his own 10-second penalty.
It seems like the new race director, the one who gave out the drive-thrus and stuff in Qatar.
Yeah.
At the very least, I think he's... Oh no, race directors don't do penalties, do they?
No, it's all down to the stewards.
Well, I was going to say, they've been way harsher on penalties, but they've been more consistent. Because I feel like a year or two ago, that would have been a turn 1, lap 1 racing incident.
Yeah.
But now they're saying, actually, no, you can't just crash into someone on the first lap and get away with it anymore.
I think as well, they're looking at who it is because I can't remember that. I think it was Mexico or somewhere.
Mm.
But there have been instances where Verstappen has done something really shady, and because it's been the first few corners of the race, he's got away with it. And I think maybe they're looking at that and going, oh, this is Max on the first lap. Let's actually teach him a lesson.
Maybe. I think they have also been quite harsh towards Max at points.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, yeah, but there was like the whole the qualifying in Qatar with the supposedly driving fast on a slow lap behind Russell.
Yeah.
And he got a penalty point for that. And I think that was actually quite unfair.
Yeah, there was something really odd about that because Alonso was in front of them doing the same speed and Russell could see.
And Alonso was saying afterwards, oh, I'll just drive up fast behind my rival and get them a penalty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of... I do think they need a consistent panel of stewards and some more kind of strict guidance to make it more consistent.
Yeah, well, Norris has been talking to Al Sulliam about having a permanent bank of stewards, and he was basically told, yeah, but who's going to pay for it?
Which is a hilarious thing to say after the GDPA said, "Where are you taking all our fine money?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Why didn't you abolish the quote President's Fund, which you used to pay for golf trips and other things?"
And also, it's kind of hilarious because it's like, oh yeah, Formula One, that incredibly impoverished sport where there's no money at all.
And also, it's like, why would the president of the entire FIA ask the driver who's going to pay for something? Like, isn't that the president's job to figure things out like that?
Really, his
It's just such a kind of.
So Leclerc made probably the recovery drive, probably the second best recovery drive of the season after Max winning from 17th in Brazil.
It's actually, I think it's the same number of positions.
Because Leclerc fought his way back up to third from 19th. Yeah, pretty much.
Close enough, 16 odd positions.
But Leclerc did it without rain.
Yeah, Leclerc was just that
cars.
bloody fast. Because
that's like what we said last time. Leclerc is actually quietly.
He's up there now. Again, that's kind of one of those like watershed drives where you realise if he can do that next year consistently, there's no reason he can't challenge for the championship.
No. Apart from his teammate.
Well, we'll see. But also, he was driving for the championship. It was just the constructors. Because the whole race, he was like, do we lose the constructors in this configuration?
Yeah.
He wasn't concerned about getting a podium or a win for himself.
I think he was also trying to overhaul Lando Norris because he was only 8 points off at the beginning.
Yeah, but if they had said, we're going to give the strategy to Carlos to get past Norris, Leclerc would have said, yes, do it, I think.
Yeah.
And then he would have like dropped back to hold off Hamilton or wherever it was.
But they got second and third, which wasn't quite enough to take the constructors' title.
But again, it was like, oh, Leclerc's starting from 19th. Constructors is over, surely.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Piastri was out of the points and Leclerc was up into like 8th. And everyone sat up and went, hang on a second.
Yep.
Get the calculators out.
Yeah, it was. Gasly got 7th and didn't just sneak into getting 6th place for Alpine. Alpine actually properly, genuinely got 6th place.
Yeah.
Because the last few races, Gasly has been properly scoring. I mean, what points are left on the table, basically, as we said.
And he was really holding up Russell as well. Like Russell, he was really kind of staunchly ahead of Russell and kind of holding him up quite a lot. It's quite funny.
Yeah. Hulkenberg got up into 8th.
Again,
Piastri
that was
recovered back to 10th.
And Piastri didn't get lapped by Norris.
Wow, it must have been close.
Yeah, but that means that he finishes every lap of this season.
Oh, yeah.
4th driver ever, but only by like a few seconds. Because if Norris had lapped him, he wouldn't have done it.
So Norris was 5.8 seconds ahead of Sainz. So, yeah, he could have probably just not overtaken him on purpose.
He might have done. I don't know if the team would have... I think the team probably would have said, focus on Sainz first.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it is like Albon got lapped. And then, what's that, 1 minute and 23 seconds behind Norris?
Yeah.
And what's the fastest lap? 1:25. So it was about 2 seconds off.
Yeah.
Being lapped.
So he did it. Piastri's a really strong driver to be able to do that.
And again, the only times he's not really been in the top 6 or 7 was in Miami. He got hit by another car, and then Abu Dhabi he got hit by another car.
Yeah.
He's kind of faded off a little bit, I think, in the second half. There was that bunch from Austria up until Singapore. It seems like that's where the McLaren was strongest, because that's where they had the dodgy wing, and they were they won most of their races in that period.
Yeah, I think they were focusing on Norris because he was just ahead.
But that's also when Piastri won in Hungary, and then suddenly it was like papaya rules, who's in front, who's actually going to be, and then Piastri faded away and Norris actually climbed back up, to be fair.
I'm just actually looking at this. So this was the final race so far for Franco Colapinto, who actually DNF'd on lap 26.
Oh yeah, there's
Valtteri
loads of crashes
Bottas,
and stuff. Yeah,
who again DNF'd.
maybe Perez who DNF'd.
Yeah, Magnussen,
Mm-hmm.
who
Zhou.
had a fairly forgettable race, to be honest. Zhou Guanyu, again, fairly going Sauber up to 13th, which, considering how slow the Sauber's been.
Yeah.
Sonoda's definitely vaulted into a seat, and then
Albon
everybody else
is.
is shuffling around.
Yes. Oh yeah, because Ocon's already gone.
Yeah,
And Jack Doohan didn't
yeah,
crash into anybody or anything,
yeah,
which is kind of actually, as much as he was kind of completely invisible. And I feel like as well, as one of the debuting drivers, he's been a bit invisible. He's been overshadowed a lot by Behrman and Antonelli.
yeah. He's not looking spectacular. I mean, 8 places behind his teammate, coming second from last of the actual finishers. But
It's
there
his
again,
first ever race. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like, not every driver's going to be the next Verstappen.
it's not going to be like a Verstappen or a Hamilton or a Vettel kind of debut, is it?
No. Hamilton had a run of like 5 podiums on debut and won his 4th ever race. I don't actually think we'll ever see that ever again.
No.
Unless the Mercedes is extremely good next year for Antonelli, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah. You know what I thought?
Mm-hmm.
It almost seemed like Hamilton's last ever race.
That's how they kind of were treating it like that a bit, weren't they?
I mean, I know it's been a 12-season partnership, the longest partnership in Formula One, the most successful partnership in Formula One.
Yeah.
The one where he's got his 6 titles, etc. But it did seem like all the TV coverage. I don't think people are expecting much from him in Ferrari.
Yeah, it is a bit strange. But I mean, they gave him a special spot.
Yeah.
That did seem strange. They gave him a special place to park his car.
Yeah.
Although he qualified, where was it? 16th?
Well, he qualified 18th, started 16th.
And he ended up 4th, ahead of Russell.
Yeah.
He overtook Russell on the final overtaking opportunity on the final lap.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of a vintage Hamilton mega drive as well.
Yeah.
Because it would have been... We've seen races from Hamilton where he's qualified down there and then he's barely cracked the top 10 because he's just not feeling it.
And, the car's been awkward to drive and he's tangled up with there's been lower down people who he can't overtake.
But
it's
he
just
actually...
been a struggle.
That also means he beats Russell overall.
Yeah, the whole 685 points each.
But he's only ever been outscored by one teammate in his whole career.
Who's that?
Button.
Well, no, because Russell's out. Oh, what, overall?
Yeah, as in when you count up the points from the whole partnership, because he obviously beat Bottas.
Yeah.
And he got like 2 or 3 championships to Rosberg's 1.
Yeah.
I imagine he probably annihilated Kovalainen as well.
Yeah.
Now he's just beaten Russell.
The other weird thing about Lewis Hamilton?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the only one to have had 3 world champions as teammates.
The only champion to have 3 world champions as teammates.
Yeah.
Well, he had Alonso, Rosberg, and Button.
Yeah.
That can't be right. What about like Raikkonen? Because he was teammates with Alonso.
I'll leave you to think about that over the winter break.
That's a brain teaser. That's quite fun.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the database now, and I'm like, Mark Webber never won. Barrichello.
What are you thinking about that? Somebody pointed out, again, I read an article, Russell could be in actually quite a precarious position. Because when the whole thing kicked off at the beginning of the season with Adrian Newey leaving and Christian Horner being investigated and Marco and Jos kicking off, Toto Wolff sat down with, I can't remember who, a couple of the shareholders in Mercedes, and they put together a war chest rumoured to be in the order of $100 million. Not actual cash, but cash they could release if needed. So they could tempt Max Verstappen to leave Red Bull and join Mercedes.
Yeah.
But, and we said this before, this is the Mercedes problem. they've got George Russell. They've got Kimi Antonelli, who's the new young wonder kid. He's the best thing since sliced bread. What's going to happen if they then introduce Max Verstappen to that party?
Yes. You're right. There's only 2 seats.
Yeah. And obviously they've thought about it because, they've gone as far as saying, well, Toto will put in tens of millions and so on. So it's obviously not a passing thought. They've obviously strategized for it, but...
Yeah. Also, I found an exception to your rule.
Oh, okay.
It depends on whether or not you count somebody currently being the champion.
Yeah.
But Alonso was teammates with Hamilton, Raikkonen, and Button.
Oh, fair enough.
But again...
Okay. Again, Alonso's one of the best drivers out there as well.
And that whole thing does hinge on Alonso and Hamilton being teammates for 1 season.
Yeah, but there again, we counted Hamilton
Rosberg
as having Rosberg as a teammate, so...
Yeah. I think that's probably it, unless you go back to the olden days and find out that, Fangio and Farina were teammates.
I heard, I can't remember where it was. I think it was actually on the Sky TV footage when they were talking to Rosberg, actually. I've forgotten his first name now. My brain's gone blank.
Nico Rosberg.
And they were talking about Hulkenberg.
Also a Nico.
Yep. And they were saying, why... Because I remember this. Hamilton came in and he was like, oh my God, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Then Hulkenberg arrived and they were like, oh yeah, the next Hamilton, he'll be brilliant.
Yeah.
And they said, what happened to it? Because obviously they're both German racing drivers, they know each other.
Yeah.
And Rosberg said a number of really interesting things. He said, first of all, he hasn't got the personality that Hamilton has got. And that early on in his career, he didn't go into details, he burned some bridges. So not everybody was willing to work with him, and he's not as easy to work with as Lewis. And then the commentator said also, you've got to bear in mind, he didn't get into the fastest cars at the right time.
Yeah.
And Nico said, no, you can't say that. He said, because if somebody is genuinely good and genuinely fast, the team bosses will find a way to put them in the fastest cars.
Yeah.
They put the best drivers in the fastest cars.
I mean, that's what happened with Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda went to Hamilton and said, he said something.
Yeah.
And that convinced Hamilton that was the right partnership to make, and it was.
Yeah.
And, they bumped up Verstappen instead of Sainz straight up to the Red Bull because they just thought he had the edge. And they were right.
Yeah, and I mean, I always see this. I don't know why. It's probably bad for my blood pressure, but I always look at, the comment sections on all the clickbait articles on Facebook, and there's a huge kind of, as you'd expect, Hamilton versus Verstappen arguments going on, and on both sides they say, oh yeah, but he's only world champion X amount of times because he was in the fastest car on the grid. And it's like, that applies to nearly all world champions.
Yeah.
And as Rosberg said, if you are a really fast driver, they will find a way to put you in the fastest car because they want to win.
But also, it's part of being a champion is knowing, which team is good and when to go there. And that's why Alonso is only a twice champion.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alonso and Button both had the incredible knack of choosing a team on the way down.
Yeah. And that, the funny thing is they were teammates at McLaren.
Yeah.
And they were both... then that's when you ended up with Stoffel Van Dorn, who joined McLaren right at the very bottom, wasn't good enough, and then got kicked out just as they were starting to swing up. And it's what did they say to him? How did they influence him to, They both just had that kind of anti-knack for getting into the right car at the right time.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And apparently Hulkenberg had a period when he was at Renault where he just wasn't fast enough.
Yeah.
So people who hire and fire drivers would look at his whole career and go, yeah, there are gaps in his driving ability.
Yeah.
So I can't find it on f1.com, so I'll do it from memory.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we looking forward to seeing in 2025?
Oh, actually, I have a spreadsheet.
Well, first of all,
Might be out of date.
we have 3 drivers who are kind of straddling that. I haven't done a full season, but you can't really call them rookies.
Yes.
We've got Jack Doohan, who, as we've said, has been a bit uninspiring so far, but it'd be interesting to see, how quickly he develops, how quickly he gets used to it.
Yeah.
We've got Liam Lawson, who's been around for a while now, hasn't he?
But is he actually going to be in the RB next year?
Oh, crumbs. I forgot that. He's not actually got a signed contract for next year.
Which is quite weird. You kind of feel like it might be like 8 a.m. on the morning of pre-season testing. They'll just say, surprise, it's actually Isaac Hadjar.
Yep. Okay, so definitely Ollie Behrman will be in a Haas.
Yeah.
Signed contract. Other driver next to him.
Yes.
Esteban Ocon next to him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he actually seems... I mean, he had the nightmare of Sainz getting appendicitis and literally being told, come out of the F2 garage, you've got free practice. And he's like, when? And they're like, well, now, really.
Yeah. And that was kind of... But it was a nightmare, but it also got him his seat as well.
Yeah, and he did a fairly strong finish for Ferrari.
For a first-time driver, he finished ahead of Norris and Hamilton.
Yeah.
I mean, that was back in the days when it was an obvious Red Bull 1-2.
Yeah.
Although Leclerc was third, which again is that kind of like he's always just been there, like hovering, very consistent.
Yeah. And he did really well in the Haas as well, because Magnussen got 12 points and then got stomach bug?
Yeah, he got 12 points for Baku, and then a stomach bug in Brazil. And I think Behrman scored 1 point in Baku. Don't think he scored anything in Brazil.
No, he said in Brazil he spent all the laps trying not to die.
Yeah, because it was raining. He'd never actually driven it before, not even on a simulator, just on the F1 game. So it is a wonder he didn't actually just crash, as, quite a few, much more experienced drivers did.
Yeah.
So it has been kind of a baptism of fire. I mean, Jeddah, Baku, and a wet Brazil are not the easiest circuits to get to grips with. It's not like, Silverstone.
Yeah. Or like a circuit of the Americas with the massive runoff areas.
Yeah, like big, nicely paved, massive runoff areas. Even Abu Dhabi is actually quite nice for Doohan to get used to it, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's see how my memory's doing. We're going to get Bortoleto?
Yes. F2 champion.
Oh, I can't remember who's got him, though.
Sauber.
Sauber?
They're still Sauber.
Next to Hulkenberg.
Yes.
Oh, he's F2 champion. That's going to be interesting to see how he translates.
Not just that. He's rookie F3 and rookie F2 champion. Which is that's like the club that's got Hamilton, Leclerc, Russell, Piastri in it. I think that might be it. Maybe Rosberg and Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
So that's
proper.
Actually, suddenly he's become quite legit.
But then again, Sauber were like the 10th team, so...
Yeah, but, Leclerc started at Sauber.
Yeah.
It depends how well he does against Hulkenberg. If he can actually beat Hulkenberg convincingly, he can shop around a bit. God knows what's going to be happening in the Red Bull family at that point.
Yeah. We've also got Kimi Antonelli, of course.
Yeah.
Which, again, is a bit... I mean, no matter how much porpoising and bad design there is going on, going straight... Wasn't he kind of short-circuited around some of the lower formulas?
He's very young. He's kind of like he is a bit like a Verstappen, or ironically, a Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah.
He's had very few junior. So he's done single season. He's done a season of Formula 4. Oh, he missed most of that season. He's done he's done quite a lot of Formula 4. bit of Formula 3 and Formula Regional, and then one not quite full season of Formula 2.
Yeah.
And then, even though he was 9th in Formula 2, they just signed him to Mercedes anyway, because they thought he was good enough.
And he's gone straight into a top 4 team, not like a Williams or a Sauber.
Yeah, I would be a bit miffed if I was Bortoleto. Or even, Felipe Drugovich.
Yeah, or Colapinto.
Because they're, Drugovich and Bortoleto are both champions, and they're being forced to, wait behind Aston Martin and go into the worst team on the grid, respectively.
Yeah.
Whereas this 9th placed 18-year-old kid gets straight into the team that were champions like 3 years ago.
Yeah, and they still know how to win, basically.
Well, yeah, but I think... Yeah, it will be interesting to see if they can actually recover, or if they're still kind of floundering a bit.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how the pressure gets to him. So I remember when he came out FP1 in Monza, it was like the Pope had arrived or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he skipped FIA Formula 3, and he went straight to Formula 2, did Antonelli.
Wow.
So it was... Yeah.
Yeah, so he did. And then, like I think
he did do some F2, F3 level races, but he didn't do a full FIA Formula 3 season. But I mean, currently, he's 6th in the championship. Oh, he missed Yas Marina for some reason. He only had 2 victories. Had about half the points of Bortoleto and Hadjar, who were right at the top and were actually fighting for the championship until the last race.
Yeah, it does seem a bit...
And you've got Jack Crawford, Zane Maloney and Paul Aaron, who are all ahead of him in the championship and are kind of just nowhere.
I think Aaron's a reserve driver now. So he's gradually making his way into Formula 1.
He's reserved for Alpine.
Yeah.
He's done a Formula E race as well, I think. Zane Maloney is a reserve driver for Sauber.
Yeah.
Which is quite impressively naff as they go.
Yeah, but they're going to get Audi money soon, so...
Oh, Jack Crawford is the reserve for the Andretti Formula E team.
Yeah, it's kind of...
So it's, yeah. But again, it kind of is playing the game of being with the right people at the right time. It's kind of like, Hamilton, when he was like 7 or 11 years old or whatever, shook Ron Dennis's hand and said, "I'm going to drive your car one day."
Yeah.
And then just dedicated everything towards that.
Yeah.
So I think that is kind of what you have to do. And like Leclerc, growing up, he probably was like, it's Ferrari or nothing. And then he ended up with Prema and the Ferrari Driver Academy and got to where he is.
And like there's photos of George Russell as a 10-year-old waiting around to get an autograph signed by Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, I think if you kind of just if you kind of take it one step at a time and say, just get into Formula 3, then into Formula 2 and see what happens, you're probably sunk.
Yeah.
You have to have that support from basically day one.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot to... Have I missed any of the new drivers for next year?
No, I don't think so. Behrman, Bortoleto, Doohan, Antonelli are all confirmed.
Yeah.
Which is actually 4.
Yeah.
And then again, like you said, like Lawson, he did a race or 2 in 2023 as well.
Yeah, when Ricciardo broke his hand.
So he's kind of the least rookie of all the rookies, to be honest.
Yeah, and also we don't know what's happening with the Perez and with the second seat in RB.
Yeah.
We don't know if Perez will be out altogether, or if Perez will go back to RB, or if Perez will be in Red Bull.
I doubt Perez will settle for RB. I think if it's most likely to be Lawson or Tsunoda replacing Perez, and then probably Hadjar replacing whoever graduated.
Yeah.
which could be 5 rookies in one season, which would be quite bananas. Yeah, it might actually be complete chaos.
Very quickly, because I know we talked a lot. Did you see the thing from Andrew Shovlin, Lewis Hamilton's race engineer? Not race engineer like Bono, but one of the engineers on the team.
No.
He's spoken a lot. Now, we're not going to go back into Abu Dhabi 2021 because everybody always talks about that.
Yeah.
But that period from Brazil to Abu Dhabi, where Lewis won everything because he had to, 4 races.
Yeah.
Apparently, after I think that qualifying where Lewis got disqualified from qualifying, but around that time, Andrew Shovlin got added to a WhatsApp group. Mm-hmm. The WhatsApp group was titled "We Will Do This," and Lewis Hamilton himself started it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, for motivation. And he said, as soon as I saw that, I knew it was going to happen, because if Lewis wants it to happen...
It simply will.
Yeah, and apparently it was like all the key players at Mercedes who could ensure that he won every race coming up.
Man. I mean, again, that's kind of almost like a movie, isn't it? You're kind of sitting after that, whichever race Hamilton came second.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, Verstappen's really fast. I wonder if we're going to be able to do this. And you get the notification and look down and go, oh, okay. I guess we will then.
And also, it's kind of significant that it wasn't like, oh, we're going to try our hardest, or, we're
going to give our best shot. It was much more black and white. It will happen.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it would have done, because they actually did, those 3 races. Even, I remember those races were like, there was that DRS shenanigans in Jeddah.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and Hamilton still came out on top.
Yeah, it was like... And even, like, let's be honest, up to about the last 7 or 8 laps of Abu Dhabi, he did it.
Yeah, he actually had the measure of him in... I mean, as much as we blame Michael Massey, if there hadn't been a crash...
Yeah.
That could have brought out... If they hadn't ended under safety car, Hamilton just would have won.
Yeah. Although, again, I saw an article that actually confirmed what we'd been saying on here. They said the seeds of Lewis Hamilton leaving Mercedes were actually sown in that final race.
Yeah.
Because they said, really interestingly, they said that the team had Lewis's back.
Yeah.
Even up to the extent of changing their team livery, because when the whole thing with George Floyd and and Black Lives Matter happened, their livery went black.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, after Abu Dhabi, they withdrew their appeal and got rid of his favourite teammate.
Yeah.
And he must have just felt like, thanks, guys.
Well, he wasn't even gonna... He made no public appearances. There was kind of speculation as to whether he'd even turn up in Bahrain for pre-season testing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it must have been kind of a bit... Well, it must, like I think I've said, it's like they also went back to the old silver livery in 2022.
Yeah, and he got the yellow T-bar to indicate that he really didn't feel like the main driver anymore.
It was that, or he went back to his yellow helmet actually that year as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was... But, I mean, also, I think, actually looking at it from a distance, I think he stuck out another 3 years. Well, actually, really 2 years, because he left at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Maybe, whether it was conscious or not, I don't know, but it kind of made him feel like he wasn't being petulant and going, oh, well, if you won't let me win, I'll walk away.
Yeah, he stuck out a bit longer and kind of... I think he did, he was like doing the experiments and stuff. He was actually working for the team and trying to move them forward.
Yeah.
But also I think maybe he kind of realised during those races that he still wanted to win the 8th.
Yeah.
And that he still actually had the kind of hunger and the drive, and that's why he chose to go to Ferrari, because they were actually on the up.
Although also I've seen an interview with Lewis Hamilton, where he said, "Oh yeah, what I'm really interested in now is activism and getting equality through motorsport and everywhere else in my life, representing people and doing what I can." And he said the best place for me to do that is from the driving seat, because that way I'll have an influence and I'll be talked about and I'll be able to make changes.
Yeah.
So really, he's not actually looking at the record books and going, "Oh, I could be an 8-time champion. Nobody's ever done that." He's actually going, "I can make the world a better place, and I can do that better if I'm still driving."
Yeah. And also, he has said that he always wanted to end his career at Ferrari.
Yeah.
Because everybody kind of wants to drive for Ferrari, I think, secretly.
Yeah, it's the kind of halo team, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, next year, we've got Max as the world champion.
Mm-hmm.
Like we say, Leclerc is unbelievably fast.
Yes.
Lando Norris has learnt a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, this was the season that he won his first race.
Yeah.
Not just competing for the championship, but actually breaking that kind of curse almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the best season he's ever strung together.
But he's also realised how dedicated you have to be.
Yeah.
In order to win
a whole championship. Yeah.
But I mean, you look at it, Max is on, I don't know, 60-something race wins. Lando's won 4. Leclerc's won like 8, 9?
Yeah.
Piastri's won a couple. Sainz has won 7 or 8. Russell's won 4. It's kind of like this huge gulf, isn't there?
Yeah.
All these new drivers have won sub 10 races so far. I mean, you've got Alonso and Hamilton in the mix who've obviously won loads.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking down the field. Actually, it's kind of... You're right, there's a lot of new talent coming through. Bottas is a multiple race winner, but he's out.
Yeah. It is a big kind of changing of the
guard, yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's Hamilton and Verstappen at the top.
Yeah.
Alonso's got 30 odd.
Yeah.
And then the next most is probably Leclerc.
Who's got... Must be up to nearly 10 by now.
8 or so? I'm going to estimate 8. He's also had his best season this year as well. I'm looking it up. It is 8.
Yeah.
He was on 5 for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 3-way fight between Leclerc, Norris and Verstappen is what we've been waiting for like since they kind of came up.
But you see, if you say that, that means you're writing off Piastri and Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
If you say the Ferrari is capable of winning championships, why wouldn't Hamilton go for it? And if the McLaren's capable of winning championships, why wouldn't Piastri go for it?
Well, I'm not sure if Piastri's had the same kind of educational season that what's his face has had, Norris.
No, he's only won 2 races. His first wins for this season.
I think he does need another year or two to get to that same level. So I think unless Mark Webber keeps interfering with the contract, I can kind of see him taking on a support role for Norris next year.
So we can definitely see a 4-way fight between Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc and Hamilton.
At least.
Because I'm saying if that Ferrari is good enough to get Leclerc in the mix...
No way Hamilton's going to sit back and let it run off without him, surely.
Depends how fast the Mercedes is and how fast Antonelli and Russell are.
Yes.
Again, they were the 4th team in the mix, so one of them, it could be a 5 or 6-way fight.
Well, yeah, because if you look at the last half of this year, it's been the top 7 drivers have all won like at least 2 races. And that was once everything kind of cleaned up. That was once it stopped being a Red Bull only show.
Yeah.
So suddenly it's like much more even. If that continues throughout the whole season, it could easily be like a 6-way title fight.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but there was a team boss either this weekend or last weekend who was talking about, the chances for a win, and he actually said, well, you've got McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, if another team boss is saying that, that's a straight message to Christian Horner to say.
It's a message to Christian Horner to say, please don't replace him. He's so easy to beat.
Well, quite. And also, if you look at the standings, the top 7 have all won multiple races.
And then it's, 0 from Perez back.
Yeah.
He's only had 4 podiums this year. God.
I know, it's kind of... I don't want to keep banging on and bashing
Yeah, everybody's already said everything that there has been... everything's already been said about Perez that there is to say.
Yeah.
It's kind of... it's just beating a dead horse, but...
So, Billy, right, what we'll do is we'll come back in... You've got the calendar, February or March?
Oh, God.
After the
don't know. I think
pre-season...
It's weird because there is a February 26th, 27th and 28th.
So we'll come back in March after the pre-season testing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm kind of guessing will actually have some clarity over 4 drivers. Well, no, Max will be in a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Tsunoda will be in an RB.
Unless he gets called up.
Oh.
Max will definitely drive a Red Bull next year.
We'll then hopefully, after pre-season testing, have some clarity over the other Red Bull seat and the 2 RB seats.
Yes. So
we'll see you...
Next year...
we'll see you again. You'll hear us again in March.
Yeah, in March, Ramadan is happening.
Yeah.
So the first 3 races are Australia, China, Japan.
Yeah,
and then it's... Which is cool, because Australia is the season opener again, which it always should be.
Yeah.
And then it's Bahrain and Saudi in April.
Yeah.
That's also why pre-season testing is right at the end of February, so as not to overlap with that.
Yeah.
But yes, that's it for the whole season.
Okay, then. Well, I've really loved this season, actually. I mean, we started off thinking, it's going to be another Red Bull show.
Yeah.
I got like 7 wins out of 10 starts.
I mean, it's been the most fun season since, I think, like 2020.
Well, 2021 was epic.
It was epic, but it was also kind of stressful. Especially the last, half. The last half of 2021?
Yeah.
After Italy, where they both crashed each other out, they finished first and second in all but 1 race, which is like 6 of them.
But yeah, if this pattern for the last half of 2024 continues, next year is going to be amazing.
It could be like 2012.
Yeah.
Which this year kind of was, but it might be even more, like 1982.
Yeah.
Which was the really bonkers season.
Was that like 6 or 7 winners in the first 6?
No, that was like... 2012 was 7 winners in the first 7 races, because that's where Maldonado won his race.
Yeah.
1982, the top 11 drivers won a race.
Oh, wow.
And the champion only won 1.
No, you see, I think it's going to be more 2012. I think we're going to see another 7 race, hopefully 8 race winners.
We could be. I mean, it could go further. I mean, I can definitely see the top 7 winning a race. Depends if Perez can get together.
Up quite fast, aren't they?
Well, there's, weirdly, Aston Martin were 5th, but they had a pretty rough season. So maybe, I don't know. I think the thing is, it would have to be a situation where everybody else was out of contention somehow. And if there's 4 teams who are up there, it's just less likely.
Yeah, you're expecting 8 cars to DNF, so...
On the other hand, it is 4 or 5 rookies next year. It could just be complete carnage from the first race.
Yeah, don't forget, we started this year with the same lineup as we finished 2024.
Yeah.
We ended up with 4 extra drivers by the end.
Well, yeah, because Red Bull decided to play silly buggers with it all.
Yeah, and Williams. And anyway.
And Alpine. Yeah.
So thank you for listening. We're going to have a couple of months off, get into Christmas and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk to you again in March when we'll see how the rookies do and who's where.
Yeah, we're going to do a post testing episode.
Yeah, we did this year. We'll do pre-season testing.
Cool.
Okay then.
Yep.
Well, I've been Graham Miller. Thank you for listening, especially if you've listened for the whole year. Mm-hmm. If you like a good murder mystery, look up Graham H. Miller. I write books. Look up Toby's official Tubi YouTube account. Mm-hmm. And for the last time in 2024, goodbye.
Yep, bye.